Hello and welcome to Tea Talks. I'm your host Yasmine Tanres, and I want you to grab a cup of tea or your favorite beverage and join me in conversations with today's most influential personalities and thought leaders from across the world while we explore their opinions, journey, and passions. From the art of negotiation to the gamification of relationships and how to maximize your purest potential, you'll be sure to feel informed, engaged, and inspired. So let's take a sip and dive right into it. Cheers! So this next guest that I have here on Tea Talks, I am so happy to introduce. Actually, she makes me so happy. And she's a huge money alleviator, let's say. You know, you got man on my money, so we want to talk about money matters. We got Brittney Castro in the house, who's a certified financial planner. She's also the CEO and founder of Financially Wise Women, which is a financial company that provides financial and investment planning services. She's also been on CNN, the publications like Glamour, as well as so many others as a financial expert, and has been elected this year as the 40 under 40 by Investment News, and all around just gives you peace of mind and is a money anxiety alleviator, I must say. So thank you so much for joining us here, Brittney Castro. It's such a joy to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me. I like the money alleviator tagline.
Money anxiety alleviator.
Money anxiety, that's true.
I love it. Okay, so it's one of those things. Like I want to dive into the fact that we met at Soho workshop, a workshop that you had hosted, and it was really one of the first times ever that I realized I've never had an experience to really dive into what my relationship is with money and the different ways to think about, oh, am I paying myself, or how much am I spending, and to really like nurture that. And so I really want to dive into the way that what your journey has been like and why you founded Financially Wise Women, out of what experience that came from. And then of course for the listeners and viewers, like what can people do in order to forge a better relationship with money, as well as to be able to create more wealth or diversify? What are some of the options out there? But before we dive into that, because this is Tea Talks, we want to know, cheers, what tea are you drinking?
Okay, don't get mad. I'm drinking coffee.
Totally not mad. I've done that a couple of times on the Tea Talks as well. So
I was gonna do my high tea. Like I had my favorite tea right now is this ginger turmeric peach. Like these three combo. Oh, it's so good. But
peach in that too.
Peach, but we're in the middle of the day, so I had to still drink my coffee. But it's interesting because my friend actually just was texting me a few days ago, like, we need to do tea, like go somewhere in LA, and like we're ladies in London having high tea. I said, yes, let's find a place right now in quarantine to like do the high tea. So I appreciate tea.
Love it. Well, here, we can do it over Zoom, just as we are having over Zoom, a little tea time. Won't hurt nobody in the middle of the day. Well, a couple of, there's the matcha place, or there's a few hotels that I think are doing some tea, but
yeah, we'll connect after.
well, yes. So, okay, I've mentioned how we met, and you hugely inspired me to create a better relationship with money and how to handle that. And I want to dive into the fact that you started off, you had a sense of financial responsibility. There's something really cute that you shared in one of your interviews about how you were a kid and every Sunday with your mom, you would cut coupons. And little did you know that you would become a financial advisor. And then out of, for whatever reason, and this is my question to you, out of what experience and based upon what principles did Financially Wise Women become founded then?
Yeah, great. Yeah, I love how you remember that part of my story. My mother, I feel like, was like maybe a traditional woman role in the household where my father went to work and my mother raised us kids, and budgeting was always a thing. Like she was in charge of the household budget and stretching the dollars, and having 3 children off of one income is tricky to do, especially in Los Angeles. And so she was so good at doing that, like stretching resources. So back then it was clipping coupons. I mean, nowadays we have all these apps to help us save money and find the best deal. But there was something so wonderful about that. And I think when I started my journey, I didn't know what a financial advisor was. I just took the job after college. I got a degree in business economics. So I knew I wanted to do something business. But I think once I dove into the actual financial advisor job and was becoming more experienced and getting training and working with clients, I realized that there was this huge gap. Like there were people like my mom who were managing the household finances, but there wasn't a lot of resources for these individuals to feel empowered with their money. Like my mom knew so much about money, but she didn't feel confident with investing, or even just like, you know, the things that maybe our generation would talk more openly about. So I started to identify this gap in the marketplace, where me being a financial advisor as a woman, I thought, oh, well, I could talk to women in a way that made sense. It's natural for me to have tea or coffee with my girlfriends and just talk about things that are important. Money is so important. And then as I just got experience in the bigger financial industry of the US, I realized not a lot of advisors are women. Women hold the majority of the wealth in America. Like, and so it was just like, this seems so weird. Like women are in control of most of the wealth in America, but yet the women still don't feel confident because no one's really addressing their specific needs or talking to them in a way that was relatable to empower them and lift them up, versus like what I kept hearing was they felt talked down to, they felt stupid asking the questions, they felt afraid to ask the questions. And so a lot of that I just identified, and actually it was my mom and I who came up with the name Financially Wise Women. We had all these like money words, and I was like, I'm going to start this company and brand, mom, so let's figure out the name. It was fun. I remember we were like going back with like money or finance and women, and then finally like the Financially Wise Women came, and we're like, yes, that's it. And that's
the one.
yeah.
I love that. That was a really great insight to how your journey had evolved into coming to this point of founding it more specifically. And often enough, your company is described as holistic and modern in its approach, and we caught a little glimpse as to why that is. But talk to us a little bit more as to how you work differently across the board than others who would be seen as like a financial advisor.
Right. Yeah. So about 8 years ago, I started this company. So I had 5 years at a financial advisor firm where I learned a lot of the marketing experience, got training, which I couldn't have what I have now without that. Then I went to an independent company and like started building the brand. And then I launched this company. And I knew when I launched this company, I wanted to do financial planning on a fee only model, which meant no commissions, no hidden unexplainable fees to clients. I just said, here's the fees, like here's how it works. We help you with XYZ, because I wanted that. I was like, why is it so confusing to know how financial advisors get paid? And if you're doing good, honest, integrity work, you should have no problem saying this is my fee and explain it confidently. Mm-hmm. So we started with a fee only. And then 8 years ago, I also just started 100% virtual. So even though I would meet clients in person every now and then at like co-working office space that I would rent, or I would do in-person workshops or speaking events, I still set up my whole business to be virtual, where I had video meetings. All of our client exchange was in secured portals. And at that time, it seemed very ahead of the game, but I just thought, well, why wouldn't we? What's the point of having overhead and all these additional expenses when people are busy? And most of them, like the 40 and under generation, really don't need or want to meet in person, as long as they feel a connection to you and have this video rapport, that's enough. And it actually saves them time and makes everybody's life more efficient. Now, given the year and everything, the work from home environment is becoming the norm for many people. But for me, that was just like, this makes no sense why financial advisors have this office and pay all this money and do everything paper, and like no one has time for that.
Has paper as well. So you're definitely ahead of the game and forward thinking. And now it's like, oh, this is like normal. So you're like thriving in this time. um,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
Mhm.
which is great. So how do you work with your clients then? And what kind of clients approach you as well?
So most of our clients, I would say, are in their 30s and 40s. So at the stage of life where they're now making money in their career, maybe don't have millions of dollars yet, but like on their way, like they have goals, they have an ambition to own a home or buy a second property. They're making good money, but still trying to find ways to stretch it and save for retirement, build their cash, live their life, you know, do all the things that you have to do. And they're willing and wanting to pay for a professional to help guide them and make these decisions. So a lot of our clients are just, you know, probably people listening to this conversation, you know, ambitious, wanting to do better, wanting to learn more, and understand that if you pay someone to help you, you'll probably expedite the process. And especially with money, I tell people all the time, a lot of times what you need to hire help for is to prevent the mistakes, because people get in their own way, especially with money, because it's so emotional. You see the stock market going up and down, you want to have a reaction. And a lot of times, if you set it up properly, you don't need to do the reaction. But if you don't have that outside professional help guiding you, consulting with you to say, no, don't do that, you might do it. And so paying for help is so incredibly important. And I'll tell you that really, financial planning is not a luxury. Everybody needs it. It's just opening people's mindset up to that thinking, because a lot of times people think, oh, I need to get money in order to hire someone, or I need to have a certain amount in order to hire someone. And I say, no, you need to hire someone from day one. It's just find the person at that stage who, like, the service and fees will match what you need. Like sometimes even if you just do 1 hour consultation and pay for that 1 hour when you're just starting out after college, it can really help open your knowledge up to like budgeting or just building a cash cushion or how to pay off your debt in the most effective way. And without that, you might struggle for 5 more years than you needed to because you just didn't have that 1 hour consultation. So I think it's really important for everybody to do financial.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't get this education at school. You have to find that education. You have to educate yourself in terms of like finances, budgeting, saving, investments. But when you don't find the time for it, it obviously makes sense that you would want to connect with and work with somebody who is an expert within that field. But so how does one then, where does one actually really start? Like when one if not everybody has like come across somebody that can help you with your financial and investment planning, like where does one actually start and look at, okay, I need help? And how do you also set SMART financial goals, and what's the acronym of SMART?
Yeah, so let's start with that. A SMART, it just means specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and timely. So basically with your goals, like it's not enough to say I want to save more money. Well, yeah, duh, everybody wants to save more money or save for retirement, or I want to retire. No, you actually have to say I want to save $10,000 within 2 years because it's important to me to have this cushion that I could fall back on if I lose my job or there's a medical emergency, or just want to have the opportunity to maybe take a last minute vacation and not put it on my credit card or worry about paying for it. So you need to have this ability to make very clear and detailed goals for yourself. And that comes with some number crunching. Like you got to do some math, you know? So that's a really great place to start if someone hasn't done that, especially in a year like now. There's so much changing. So many people are going through major transitions, moving, relocating, divorce, getting married, starting a new job, losing a job, starting a business, closing a business. There's been so many significant changes for most people that you also need to get in this habit of reviewing and updating as much as necessary, but especially once a year. And that would be a second great place to start. It's like really define what are your goals? What are you trying to do with your money? Make them very specific and then update it so it's relevant and you're not just working toward things that aren't meaningful for you, or maybe so much has changed that you need to restructure the entire financial plan again.
That's interesting because I like what you mentioned there in terms of like, it's basically having, you know, how we set once a year in the beginning of the year, we have these like a yearly goal or something, like to eat less chocolate or whatever it is. But it's also really important to then evaluate financially what your goals are. And as you've just mentioned, like once a year at least would be really healthy to do so. And like you were saying, yes, it's really weird, unprecedented times. And of course, so many people are going through ups and downs in terms of finances or productivity and everything. And so, what are some of the money lessons that you've learned in this time? And how can one be able to avoid falling to the demos of like going through the pandemic or going through a disaster or something that has shifted within somebody's life so much to still be able to remain afloat? Like what's a really important lesson that would have been learned in this time?
I want to say that an important lesson, and for me, I actually learned it a few years ago, but it's been really showing its benefit this year, is that everyone goes through financial struggle or hardship. It's no one is immune to it. So no matter how good at money you are, at some point in your lifetime, you might have a period of financial hardship or struggle, whether it comes from a job loss or just reduced income or some sort of medical happening, whatever it might be. So one, you're not alone. Like that is so important to know. I think at any point in your financial life, you're not alone. Like the most successful people financially have gone through actually many financial struggles or hardships. And, you know, like we've heard these success stories, like they've gone bankrupt and then they rebuilt. So I think that's really important. And then why, like I've known that is like, you know, having a business, you go through so many challenges financially. And so it's almost like I've built a muscle. And then at some point, like you might go through financial hardship, but also know on the flip side, you're going to have periods of your life where there's financial success and abundance and opportunities. And so not comparing is very important, because if you compare what's happening to me right now in 2020, I would say things are happening. It's thriving. It's a lot of opportunity for me. But I'm very honest and real. And I'll say to people who are like, oh, it's so great you have success. And I say, yeah. And it just so happened it came in 2020 when a lot of other people are really struggling, or it's not that case for them. So, you know, having that ability to not compare is really important, to know you're not alone. And then remember in the times of either to come back to the basics. So like a lot of the basics of budgeting, knowing where your money goes, having that emergency fund, only putting on debt what you could really afford and pay off, planning ahead, funding retirement. I mean, these are things that need to happen regardless. But I think like if someone wasn't really paying attention to those, maybe because they didn't necessarily need to, this year, I've seen so many people be like, oh, now I get it. That's why I need to budget. Or that's why you told me I needed that cash cushion, because one, it's really saved my butt this year, or now I really need to build it because it's so important. So a lot of the fluff, I think, has kind of, you know, unfortunately, we had a lot of not good events happen, but also it brings a lot of opportunity to kind of like come back to the basics and say, what's most important and how do I build this financial foundation that will kind of hold true regardless of what's happening. Like, you know, the storms come, rainbows come, but you want to have this ability to understand money on a holistic level, like you talked about, to know what's important. Like the basics are always going to be important, no matter if you have a lot of money happening or very little happening. And
Mm.
find that balance so that if you have a lot of money, then keep the cash cushion, like don't blow it, you know, don't just like go crazy, but really set yourself up for the storm that might come, who knows when, so that you're prepping for, it's almost like you want to, like the life go, you know, the roller coaster of life, and you want to find some sort of like
Like a mellowness, like a calm wave, staying
take.
afloat. You know, I want to dive into, because this is a term that you mentioned, it's the cash cushion. What is that exactly? Because for some people that don't know that term, how do you describe that?
I would say I like to call it a cash cushion over emergency fund, because the word, like a word emergency is like, ugh. um, money in the bank, usually 3 or 6 months of your core expenses. So if you looked at your budget and you said, you know, in order to pay my rent or mortgage, put the basic food, clothing, all of that, like basically pay your bills, it's going to cost $5,000 a month. So then you would say, I want 15,000 in the bank in savings that I could get to. If something happened, I had that money to like float me through, so I don't have to use debt or panic. Or some people need a little bit more, whether it's their job or just personal preference. So they want more, like 6 months in the banks to fall back on. So that cash cushion is extremely important. And times like this, a lot of people are using their cash cushion, and that's okay. That's what it's for. And then at some point when we're able to replenish it, you want to replenish it. So it's like a constant goal we have. And it's the one, like that in retirement are the ongoing goals in our life, right? Like we constantly need to have like some sort of cash cushion, no matter what stage of life we're in. Sometimes we use it, so we need to replenish it. And then we constantly have to look at retirement. How are we saving for it? And the people who are retired have to say, how are we not running out of money in retirement? So these two goals are like the consistent ongoing goals in anyone's financial life.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because I was listening earlier on to a podcast, and they were talking about how, you know, women and men are different in terms of seeing um, their retirement fund. Like men are definitely more like they invest more into that rather than women who are like shoes, cars, whatever, right? Like, and so, you know, there's that conflict of like, oh, I don't know how long I'm gonna live. Am I still gonna make it to retirement, or what's the point? Like, why don't I just like live in the moment? And I think that's a mindset that we can see a lot amongst millennials. And so I know you work with teens and college students and millennials as well. And so what is a rule of thumb to really be aware of, or something that you wish you had known as well, whether you had been a teen, student, or millennial? What advice could you share there?
Great. Yeah, the balance act of living for today and saving for the future is one we all have to constantly come back to. The 50-20-30 rule of thumb is the best one to start with. So simply put, your net income every month, which is the after-tax money you receive, 50% should go towards fixed bills like your rent, car, insurance, you know, utilities. 20% is what you're aiming to save for all those future goals like retirement or buying a home or college for your children. And then 30% I say you could spend on whatever you want, like the guilt-free spending. So whether you're into travel or entertainment, or you have other hobbies, or you really like clothes or shoes, or for me, self-care and like well-being is so important. Um, so that's a good starting point. I always put the disclosure that if you live in a major city like San Francisco, New York, LA, it's hard to only have 50% of your income go toward fixed bills. A lot of times it's more like 60, maybe 70. So it's a guiding post for everybody. If you can't do a full 20% towards your savings, then do what you can. Like, I think a lot of people say, oh, I can't save 20%, so I'm not going to save. Actually, no, it's, even if you could only put 1%, set it up, because you're building the muscle, you're building the habit, and then you work to improve it, whether that's making more income so you can save more, reducing expenses so you can save more. But like, the idea that you're the one in control of this is really important. And for kids, millennials, to teach them that, like, you have the power, no matter where you come from, you're dirt poor, super wealthy, you have the power to figure this out for yourself and create money for yourself so you can fund it. It's not going to be overnight, but it's possible. And I like to teach kids that, because I think I learned that once I was a financial advisor. Like, oh, okay, like, somehow I need to make money. Okay, how much money do I want to make? Like, this was the kind of thought process and then I'm like, this is how much money I want to pay for the things I want to have and save. So then how do I make that happen? I'm a business owner, so how do I get the revenue to then pay me? And it didn't happen overnight. It's taken years and a lot of hard work, but without the clarity, I'll tell you, it would be impossible. And so,
It
yeah,
definitely comes down to, I guess, you know, when you're a kid, you're growing up and you get pocket money if you're lucky, and then you're like, I'm gonna save this or I'm gonna spend it. And there's just so many different mentalities around it. And it's really based upon like, what are you taught? And you know, I think this is something that's really important, that I guess as parents, we do teach the kids, or even within school, if there's some form of like being able to teach what the different ways are. Now, that then building that relationship with money stems from a very young age. And so I want to dive into our special segment, but just before that, we've spoken about holistic ways of how to build that relationship with money. And so what are some of the other healthy ways? So you've mentioned the 50-30-20 rule. And what are some of the other tactics that you can use in order to have a better relationship with money?
A few things. So one, I would say the weekly money date, which I think you do and learned.
I
At the
love that idea, by the
Yeah,
way.
it's really just time in your calendar every week where you're dedicated to looking at your money. So whether that's updating your budget, or maybe handling bills. Like, some of us, like me, I'm automated most bills, but I still have some random bills that I need to pay with an actual, like, mail, invoice. Um, you could handle any other things that you need to do in your financial life, whether it's calling the credit card company, or talking to your financial professionals, or calling your insurance. I mean, there's so many things we need to do in our money lives. So this time that's dedicated in your calendar is a chance for you to take care of it, so it doesn't weigh on your mental, like, we're thinking about it whether we're doing it or not. And then you just kind of like keep it within a boundary so you don't get overwhelmed. It's not like you're trying to do everything in 1 hour. You're trying to do the most important things, but the idea is you constantly do it. It's like a muscle, like we have to exercise. Well, you're not trying to exercise for 24 hours in the day. No, you exercise for a decent amount, like an hour, and that's good. And then you come back the next day, or like 3 times a week you do that. So same with your money. You have to have a dedication to building this relationship with your money. And I think it's just a habit. And once you get in the habit, it's really difficult to not do it, because you
I,
feel.
yeah, I love that, just because it's like, as you're saying, it's building a relationship, and that comes with consistency, commitment, and dedication, and effort and time. And that's like with any relationship. That's even like setting aside the time to go dating, to meet that somebody, to build that relationship. And then obviously you go into work, and that's a work relationship. Like, you're building upon your skills. So that brain muscle that you also have to use in order to know what's going on with your money, that's a relationship there. So I love that idea, and the tactic of having that money date, whether that be on a weekly, or for some bi-weekly or monthly. Like, you do it on a weekly basis, right?
I do, and I always disclose too that I actually have a CPA and a bookkeeper, and I have these systems, and yet I still have my own like Excel budget spreadsheets for my business and personal life, the same systems I teach clients, because one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was always keep your eye on the money. It's my money. It's my responsibility. So even though I have this team that helps me and is like active and doing a lot of the things for me, this is my money. No one's going to care about it more than me. So I'm still in there looking at every transaction in my bank account, credit cards, you know, making sure I'm on top of things. And that's important. So it never ends.
So we want to get into our special segment. This is something really, really fun that you had brought up at the workshop. It's the money story. So tell us a little bit more about that. I do have a paper here, and I know just to describe it,
Yes.
we will put up an example, but you have this circle, and then you start to just like draw little bubbles within the circle and go through your journey and relationship to money. So
Yeah.
why is that important? And how do people go about it? Like, what do they do in the circle?
Yeah. So what, like you just did, you want to draw a circle and you want to think about the very first money memory you've had. So you know, close your eyes or check in and go back to that first experience when you were a kid, whether it's like you saw money or money was given to you, and draw something that dictates that memory. And the idea with drawing and not just writing is you're tapping into the side of the brain that's getting in touch with emotions, with behavior, kind of like artists do the artist way for that. This
I
is
did read that. It's a great book.
yeah, it's kind of like a money version of just self-discovery. I'm just making this up, but why does someone overspend or avoid money? Well, it's because of the experiences they've had, whether it was maybe their parents were avoiding money, or maybe they saw parents fighting, and so it was so stressful that they developed this behavior. So you want to get in touch with like your past experience. So you work from the bottom up and go through as many memories that you have. And then once you draw out the memories, you want to go back and attach an emotion, a feeling, excitement, happy, stress, worry, sad, angry. And you then look and say, do I have more positive or good memories or more bad or negative memories with money? And how is that now shaping my mindset, my thoughts, my behavior, my actions with money now? And it's really important because what we find is like psychology will tell you this, but a lot of us learn the things between like by the time we're 7, we've developed like our personality and behaviors and mindset on things. And until we really do awareness or self-discovery, we might never see it like, oh, maybe that one thing I've been doing, I don't need to do anymore because it's not helping me. I am constantly worried about money. Where's that? Maybe it was because my dad was worried about money all the time. So I just picked it up. But I no longer want that because it doesn't work for me. And then the idea is once you get clear about your money story, you can change. Then you have the first step to being able to change it if you don't like it. So like in that worry example, if you say, you know, this worry really is not serving me. I'm constantly worried about my money. And maybe it was just because that's what my dad did. So anytime I recognize the worry, now I'm going to remember, no, I don't want to do that anymore. That's not real for me anymore. And you change it to something positive. Like now I'm going to remember that this is an abundant world, that I'm always taken care of. Even if I can't see how this is all going to work out, I know I'll be okay. Like more money will come. So it's not enough to just say like, I'm never going to think about it again. I'm never going to have the worry. It's like you actually have to do the work every day to become aware and then make those conscious decisions to change it. Self. And this is like a lot of self-development and you know, like Tony Robbins mindset stuff. But the mindset is so important with money because I've worked with so many people who have all the money they could ever need, and they're still worried and constantly stressed. So to me, I'm like, what's the point of that? Like that is not success in my version of definition. that's not living abundantly or living wealthy. Like, to me, that doesn't define rich. For me, I'd rather have this mindset where I feel rich, where I feel an ease with my money, I feel abundant. Even if my account is not at the level I want it to be, I don't panic and get into that state of worry and anxiety that people really is really bad. Money stress is really bad for a lot of people. I think it's one of the worst kinds of stress, and it could weigh on us in so many levels. And if you begin to do things like this, it'll bring alleviation, hopefully.
And get rid of that tension and money anxiety. Well, this is exactly what you've just shown and shared with us. We can see why you're very holistic in terms of your approach, and of course very modern. You work across the board, feel not just with women but also with couples. And it's true, you know, you worry and stress is the biggest killer. And if you feel and think you don't have enough, you're not going to have enough. So it's a matter of telling yourself, I am successful, I have money, and see how that mind shift can shift as well a lot of emotions towards it. So I think it's not a whole Tony Robbins spiel or whatever. It's like, this is fact. Like, this is how we have to be able to build that relationship with ourselves and what worries us. So what is, before you go, what is your life motto?
My life motto. Ooh, good question. I think my life motto, which I constantly tell myself, is just have fun and really just try to laugh as much as possible. Because what I found is, even when I think things are very serious, they're really not that serious in the grand scheme of things. Like, have fun, laugh, enjoy the journey. It always makes me, one, tackle whatever it is that's happening, not from like a frou-frou way, but like a real way. And then, just like I said, like, it's not so serious. Like, money is really not so serious. A lot of people, I mean, I get it. I'm not like just saying this, but there are a lot of aspects of money, but in order to like manage it and enjoy it, we need to have some fun.
Absolutely. Money does come and go. But we have one life to live, so we got to make the most of it and have the most fun that we can. Well, I know that, you know, you've been creating really fun and very informative videos, which are on your YouTube, on your Instagram, on your Twitter. So what upcoming projects or current projects are you working on, or anything exciting that's coming up that people can follow you on and sign up to as well?
Yeah, just come over to financiallywiseinc.com, check out all the stuff. Instagram, Brittney Castro is always great. We post a lot of stories, the videos on there. I recently worked on a project I do a lot of content development with brands. So I recently did one with the First Entertainment Credit Union and the Lakers. So I got to interview some Lakers top athletes about how they manage their money, and it's really inspiring. And that will be coming out shortly in the next week or two.
That's so awesome, because I was just about to like, oh my God, I cannot let you go without talking about this, but it's gonna come out. So that is that something that we can watch, or how is that gonna come out?
It'll be living on the First Entertainment Credit Union website, and I'm sure if you follow some of the Laker players, they're posting it on their Instagram as well. But it's fun. I think the athlete mindset and the wealth mindset are so similar, and to hear these top athletes who are very good at their craft take that kind of mentality and translate it to their wealth and financial life, it's very inspiring. And you see that really anybody can do it with time, dedication, focus, discipline, and have what they want in life. And it's very important to hear these other stories and feel that we can do it too.
That's really awesome. Well, I cannot wait to see that, as I'm sure many others. Thank you so much for your time and for coming here on Tea Talks. It's been really informative and such a helpful discussion.
Thank you so much for having me.
So good seeing you. Cheers. Thank you so much for joining us here today. If you liked that episode, please like, comment, and share, and subscribe to this channel so that you know when the next conversation is up. I love to hear your thoughts and engage, so please don't be a stranger. Cheers.